Hello, I'm Jonathan Dunsky, author of the Adam Lapid mysteries. On this channel, I talk about crime fiction and thrillers that I read and enjoyed. And today, I want to tell you about A Perfect Spy by John le Carré. John le Carré was a very successful and famous author of spy thrillers. And this is considered by many to be his most accomplished and sophisticated book. And I finished it recently, and I want to tell you what I thought of it and maybe help you make a decision on whether you should read it and when you should read it, because I think that this is a book that you will enjoy more or even enjoy at all only at certain periods of your life. And I'll explain why as I get more a bit later in the review. So A Perfect Spy is the story of a British spy called Magnus Pym, and he is a spy of, he's worked for the British Secret Service for a number of decades. He's an accomplished spy, and currently he is stationed in Vienna, and then one day he simply disappears, and no one knows where he's gone. But they do find out that he took a burn box with various secret material from the embassy with him when he disappeared. And the book is told from a few viewpoints, and it also jumps around in time period. And it is partly told from the viewpoint of Magnus Pym as he gets to a pre-prepared hideout where he sets out to write an autobiography while always being on the lookout for other members of the British Secret Service who will come looking for him. And the other viewpoints are his wife Mary, who is also a former spy, and a man by the name of Jack Brotherhood, who is also a spy, a current spy, and he is Magnus's sort of mentor. He's the one who brought him into the service in the first place, and now he's entrusted with the task of finding out where Magnus had gone and why he disappeared. And so the book is set in the 1980s, or it was published in the 1980s, and basically this is when Magnus Pym disappears. But much of the book is also about earlier years than that, throughout Magnus Pym's life, the way that he narrates his life as he's thinking about writing it or as he's writing it. And he writes it in part for himself, in part for his wife Mary, and also for his only son Tom. And the story of Magnus's life is quite interesting. He had a father called Rick who was a con man. And from what I read about the book, the author's father was also a con man. So this book is in part autobiographical. It is based on certain elements of John le Carré's life. But in the book itself, Magnus tells the story of his early childhood, the way his parents met, and the various schemes and scams and that his father tried to pull off or pulled off throughout his childhood and even adulthood, and the way that his father's fortunes would rise and fall again with each successive scam, as it would at first succeed and then fall apart. And Magnus had this sort of very unstable life as a child. So we get to know how Magnus became the man that he is, and how this affected his choice of becoming a spy, or his acceptance of the invitation to become a spy, and also the way that he conducted himself as a member of the British Secret Service. And the book is is in parts one of the best books that I've ever read, but it is in other parts a very difficult book to read in a way, because the style of writing is as unstable as Magnus's life is described to be or to have been. Sometimes Magnus, as he's writing the book, talks about himself in the third person. Sometimes it's not really clear who he is referring to. There's a lot of inner dialogue or inner thought that is sometimes rather slow, and when you open the book, you often see pages that are simply one paragraph, very long, very sort of a big block of text that is not so easy to read. But in other parts, when you sort of get enough focus, or when you dive into the book and concentrate on it, when your mind is clear, the book is a work of art in many respects. The language is beautiful. The way the sentences are crafted, very advanced writing, but you need to put in some effort to really enjoy the book, to really grasp everything that the author is throwing at you, because the book is so sophisticated and complex in a way, just in the way that the language, just in the way that it's written, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph. Now, I made the mistake, unknowingly, but I made the mistake of picking up this book in October 2023, and I live in Israel, and we're now in the midst of a war here. And as you can imagine, when you're living in a country that's in a war, during a war, your mind is pretty much occupied by the news, by thoughts of the future, by just thinking about life as it is being, completely upended. So this is not a good time. This was not a good time for me to read this book, because my mind was completely occupied by just my life that has become very, very unstable and even frightening. So you need to decide. I would advise you to read this book only when you have a clear mind, a clear schedule, and you're able to really dive into this book and give it the attention that it requires. And this is not a short book. This edition is 660 pages long of quite dense and quite small and dense text. So it will take you some time to go through the book, especially if your mind is not free to really dive into it and absorb it. So do I recommend this book? I recommend it if you're ready for it. If you're, as I said, if you have enough free time, and if your mind is not occupied by other matters, and if you're ready and if you want to read something that is advanced both in the language itself and in the way the story is structured, this is not a book for everyone. It's not a book for every time. It is a book for someone who wants to take on a sort of reading challenge and has the time and the mental freedom at that time to read the book. But if you do read it, and if you are able to focus on it and concentrate on it, you will read a book that is quite different from probably anything else that you've ever read. And it is quite an accomplishment. This book is quite an achievement in writing. It's a work of art, but you may find yourself enjoying books that are less complicated, less complex, or less advanced in their writing and in their structure, and that is fine. After I finished this book, I immediately went back to read just regular crime fiction, and I found myself enjoying that more than I enjoyed this book. But I'm still happy that I stuck with it and read it, but it was it was a bit slow going, and it took a lot of mental energy to really focus on it and to read it all the way through. So you need to decide for yourself whether you think this is the sort of book that you'll enjoy. It's a work of art, but that doesn't mean that you have to read it or that you need to read it. There are a lot of great books that I will never get to read, a lot of recognized works of literature that I will never get to read, and that's fine. I believe in reading for enjoyment. And so you need to decide whether this is the sort of book that you'll enjoy. So, as I said, this is a rather different and an advanced spy thriller, and in a way it's unlike any other spy thrillers that I've ever read. So check it out, give it a try, read the first a few dozen pages and see if it's for you. But I would suggest do not just pick up this book for when you have a lot on your mind, because I don't think you will be able to enjoy it as much as you can otherwise. So that's my review of A Perfect Spy. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book or any other work by John le Carré, or if you have any other spy thrillers that you think I'll enjoy. Thank you for watching the video. I'll see you in the next review.